have access to that.
But
How
that's
many
a parent
how
paying
many
thing.
parents
Just keep
do
that
that
in
now?
mind.
How many parents have a code to their TV nowadays that their kids can't look at certain things?
The fear that
That's
you're talking about makes a lot of sense, but as far as emotions go, kids can have fear all day long and still be emotional as hell.
yeah,
Including
they're going to be emotional, but you as the parent have to understand that sometimes your happiness is not the, again, even in a marriage, like happiness is not the goal in a marriage. Happiness is not the goal for children. It's your job to raise your children. Happiness is sometimes not in there. And yes, you talk to them, but you're rearing children. You're growing adults. They're not going
But
to
I don't
always
think
be
you
happy.
should kill the happiness in a child, because that's the joy of being a child, is being happy, being upbeat, being alive. And when, like Aaron was saying, like, go sit down, don't do this, don't touch it, you kind of kill it. You kind of kill it. Sometimes women do overkill, and it just like has them in this state of, like, fear, or she ain't gonna let me do nothing, or then like now you think, oh, my mom ain't gonna let me do nothing, she always hating on me. It's like you gotta have a healthy balance of knowing when to be happy, and then when you can't get certain things, it's knowing when to, like you said, have that respectful boundary with me as your parent, and to also encourage gratefulness. Grateful when you don't have certain things, grateful when you do have certain things. You know what I'm saying? So it has to always be a balance of everything.
Picking a balance.
Uh,
Go ahead,
there,
John.
I don't know if there's a
Go ahead, bro.
50-50 balance. Like I said, you're raising children. You're not raising your friends. You're not raising, there has to be a certain type of authority that you're not gonna there's nothing you can do to get past this authority. Yes, we can have happy times, we can have happy moments, and I can congratulate you. But at the same time, you have to take that authority.
Yeah, I agree. But
People of color, I find majority, not everyone, have a hard time with discipline and self accountability.
That part.
So much people of color. I'm talking about the men and the women alike. So when they become parents, it's the same thing. It's hard to teach your child discipline when you're not disciplined.
mhm.
So and I say all the time, you can't love your child if you don't discipline your child. Period. It doesn't exist. You're not preparing them for the real world. And that's why we see these kids today. A lot of them are, I hate to use the word weak, but because that's the word that we have up here, they're not disciplined. That's how I
Mhm.
would say it in my language. They're not disciplined. And people who aren't disciplined, they fail in life, period. So I'm not here to sugarcoat things and make people feel good about it. When you're not disciplined, you fail in life. Kids, grown people alike. So you want your children to make different choices and decisions that you didn't make. You're telling them to do all of these things when you didn't do them. It's just, it doesn't make sense. It's counterproductive. You're never going to have your children listen and be disciplined when you're not a person that listens and you're not disciplined. It doesn't work. And that's why the society is the way it is today. And it's very unfortunate. Again, I'm talking about the majority. And on this show, I'm speaking about the majority of people of color. And, that's why I like to do my coaching to help people out, because you can't tell somebody to do something when you don't know how to do it.
Let me
It
Yeah.
let me
doesn't
ask
work.
another question. What's discipline? What's discipline when it comes to kids?
Well,
That's so broad,
Structure and
Anton.
order.
Like, for
Okay, well, what is
example,
it? Define it for me.
for example, there are people that don't know how to tell their children no.
Is that
That
discipline?
that, that's one
That's
thing.
not discipline.
The discipline will come when the child is not listening, when the child isn't respecting what you're telling them.
How when your kid do something wrong, how do y'all
Hmm.
discipline?
That's the
training.
thing. People don't do it.
pop their
Well,
ass.
how do you do it? Because listen, we
I
can throw
talk.
out we can all throw out terms. We can say the right thing. I see a lot of kumbaya on the panel, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't believe the overwhelming majority of anything that anybody is saying on this panel right now, because if people truly believed in the thing that they were saying, then they would be in the household with their kid. If people truly believed the thing that they were saying on this panel, then they would have made the sacrifice for their kid instead of leading based off of how they felt, because they understood that the kid was the greater purpose, and that the kid didn't ask to be here, but y'all brought him in here involuntarily against their own will, right? So, one of the reasons that I don't believe it is because we all know that you is better, and statistically speaking, it's much greater chance of your kid being much more successful, less dependent, less likely to have depression, less likely to go to jail, much more likely to be graduate from college and high school, so on and so forth, if they have two parents in a household. A. B. I can't hear anybody telling me that we need men in the household if we ain't got no man in the household, right? If your kid is living and splitting time between that house and this house, then why should they move any differently than what their parents are showing them? See, I believe that the best way for you to teach a kid is not what you tell them to do, is what it is that they see. I've always said that I'm a reflection of the thing that I would want my daughter to marry. The only thing she sees, because what I say is just a reinforcement of what it is that she witnesses on a daily basis, is me loving, holding, and making sure that our family is on a pedestal 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. She sees her father working. Why would a kid go outside and play when all of their parents is working from home and they never leave the house 29 hours out of the day? How can we tell a kid to get off their device if the only thing that they see us doing is on our device 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? How can we discipline them and say, hey, do what I say and not as I do? Because regardless of whether or not you actually say that phrase or not, that's literally what you're communicating with them, because they see you doing something completely different than what it is that we advocating for them to do. I don't understand how our lives is not a reflection of the thing that we supposed to be advocating for our kids to be. I genuinely don't. And that's why I don't believe people, because what people say is supposed to be a reflection of how their lives is truly is, right? And so my question again then comes back to, how do we truly discipline our kids? How do you tell your kid what to do? What do you say to them when they fuck up, right? Excuse my language. When they mess up, what do you do to them? Do you whoop them with a belt? Do you tell them to stand in the corner? You tell them they can't have a device? You ground them? You tell them what is discipline, right? And after we define what discipline is, why should they listen to you?
Well, the way I do it with mine is whenever they mess up, I talk to them about, the mistakes they made, and I help them understand why they shouldn't make the mistake. That way they have an understanding of why not to do it again. And they're able to digest that self-control. So I no longer need to go over these things again. So like, it was an instance where my nephew would he would go down in the refrigerator and raid the refrigerator and eat up all the fucking snacks or whatever. And he thought it was cool. I said, no, that's not cool. You got to make sure you share with everybody else. And I gave him an understanding on what the importance of sharing. Instead of just chastising him, I gave him an understanding of why he shouldn't do it. That way, it's instilled in his mind that, okay, I probably won't do this because this and that.